And you've obviously seen the movie and you read the book, as you said.
I did.
Okay, so I'm basically going to ask you some questions about the movie and the book.
Okay.
And just basically problems that go on in our everyday life and about race and ethnicity. And yeah, so first question.
All right, state your name and occupation here at Centennial.
My name is Mosley. My name is Treyvon Gomez.
I'm Raymond Chapple.
Lindsay Aikman.
I'm Coach Quan.
I'm Carolyn Kodes.
And this is the Hate You Give.
All right, can you please state your name and your occupation at Centennial High School?
Yep, I'm Carolyn Kodes. I'm the drama director and an English teacher.
Okay. How do you think the color of someone's skin affects the people in real life and everyday life?
I think people are judged by the color of their skin all day, every day. And sometimes that works out. Sometimes they end up having racial privilege, and sometimes it doesn't work out well because people are discriminatory.
It can affect it a lot. Like, so say that a black man were to kill a white man.
Black cop killing a white man.
Yeah, a black cop killing a white man.
It wouldn't be talked about.
It wouldn't
much.
be right. I mean, it'd be big, but they wouldn't like.
They wouldn't
try to riot for it. Like, if a white man killed a black man, they would go crazy.
Okay.
And also, we don't always get the like the story down to the right detail. So we can't really put ourselves in that position because we don't know what really happened. Because maybe something happened that they don't want out.
Maybe something set that off.
I think the color of people's skin is not necessarily what affect their everyday life. I think the perception, other people's perception about the color of their skin is what changes everyday life. I think in society we got stigmas around people of color, whether we got certain stigmas around people of like Hispanic heritage, we got different stigmas around people of African American people, and we kind of live in a society where white is considered right, and so everything that's not white is some type of negative association with it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of judgment. Everybody got a different ego based off their color. Like if you from a family, like white people, you feel like you in like white people. Whereas like if you in a town where whites don't like blacks, like you understand what I'm saying, right?
How do you feel about the word thug being an acronym for the hate you give?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like, they didn't, like, really misuse the word. I mean, they were, like, they were racist.
Right.
Like, they didn't really misuse the word because, as you can see in the movie, in the book, they explain how the thugs, you know, they burned down the store and how they robbed people and shit. I mean, they didn't...
It's alright, it's alright.
They didn't misuse the word.
Word thug? What you mean by that? Like,
Word thug.
using the word thug?
It's an acronym for the hate you give.
I feel like, it's like them trying to give a name to black people.
Well, I mean, it's Tupac, so Tupac is the one who ushered that in, and he brought awareness to the stereotypes that Black Americans carried and the weight of that stereotype, but also the power. So I just attribute it to Tupac.
We own some shit, I'ma call it like it is. How you gonna be a man and we start?
After watching the scene about Khalil, how do you feel about police brutality?
I feel like they should like just not do that, period. I feel like they just changed the law and how it works. Because he was reaching for a brush and it was kind of obvious. And he got killed.
But you do gotta think about...
Do you think the officer should have acted in a different manner?
Yes. I just feel like he purposely did that just to have a reason to do something.
That's like a yes and a no. I probably would have drawn my gun. I wouldn't have shot. For sure, I wouldn't have shot.
But wait, because what if he was reaching for a gun and he would have shot the officer?
See me. So he said stay here. Well, for one, he was being very rude once he seen that they were black. I would have definitely took that approach different because you seen Star how she got straight into where her dad taught her. Yeah.
give me my
and stuff.
hands on the car.
So, as an officer, so he stopped them. They were drunk. Okay. Came from a party. Somebody just got shot at, whatever.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
After
I would have approached the car. I would say license registration.
registration.
And if he didn't have it, okay, step out of the car, put your hands on the vehicle. If he would have reached in or like playing around, like he's clearly drunk.
Right.
So even if he did grab a gun, I doubt he'll be able to, shoot faster than I was shooting.
Witnessing the murder of her childhood best friend, why do you think she unwillingly here being a witness to the murder?
Because it's her. She's experiencing trauma and grief. It's a devastating moment. Her identity should belong to her, and her grief should belong to her, and not the public. I don't blame her for not speaking up in the book, because it also could carry the risk of her own life and her family's safety.
Trauma.
That's definitely what it is. Trauma. She don't want to,
Remember Maverick's friend King?
Oh, yeah.
He was threatening her if he would have said something because Khalil was one of his drug
Yeah,
dealers.
Okay.
So she threatened him.
And then
If
when
they said something, they
when
would've
she
hurt her.
did something, he burned down the store or something, tried to kill her.
He burned down her dad's store.
Now this isn't on the list, but this is something I've been asking everybody.
Okay.
The fire scene when they burned down the store. How do you feel about that?
I will always say that people are more important than bricks and mortar businesses. Like, I will always say that. Like, I mean, we were going to study this in my class, and we still will, but Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did say that a riot is the voice of the unheard. That when people are pushed to a breaking point, when they don't feel like justice exists, it's outrageous, and people are moved to a place of absolute rage.
So you feel like it was more of a justice move than a destructive move?
I think that rage is an acceptable emotion when you feel like, when you watch and see that someone who is innocent is killed, and you just, that's a feeling of outrage.
Who is your favorite character and why?
Maverick, the dad.
I think Big Mav.
Star.
Maverick Carter is the father of Star, but what do you think his role is in the story?
I think his role in the story is to demonstrate that people contain multitudes, that people have complicated lives, and when you meet a person at one point in your life, you can't think that that's who they will be forever. That people are allowed to rebuild or reshape or move on, or, people are allowed to take different directions in their life. And I think about that a lot as a teacher, because we work with teenagers, and it's really easy sometimes for adults who work with teenagers to think, oh, this teenager's making a terrible decision, this is how they will be forever. But then you see teenagers grow up to be community members, and you're like, oh, they are incredibly capable, or they're happy in their career, or they have kids, or they went back to college, and life is long, hopefully, and it's full of many chances. So I like the multitudes that he contains.
To really show his daughter how life is, really, father.
I think he just plays a
He
very good role as a
plays
father.
a very good father.
Because he has 3 kids.
Because he explains his past, why he regrets it and stuff.
And he told them what's like right and wrong and what not to do. And he also trying to at least teach them a lesson to not be like him in his youth.
Maverick explains the meaning of his children, of his children's names. Sakani is for joy, Star is for light in the darkness, and 7 is because 7 is a secret yet perfect. How do you feel about these names?
I feel like they're the right names to pick for a kid. But I also feel like you shouldn't really give them that name. It's just like a lot of people don't go through stuff like that, like as they name say. I have a friend named Sadiq. His name means hope. He could not have a lot of hope for himself, so you can't really like give him that name.
How do you think the gang violence affects the young people of this generation?
I think that obviously gang violence stopped young people from being able to grow up and become old people. On top of that, gang violence is glorified through music and movies, and I think those things, on top of like adults, as adults we do a lot of like teaching lessons to kids, and I think that sometimes in teaching our lessons, we tell kids a little bit about the different stuff that we went through, and we look at it as us telling them what we went through, and they kind of glorify it. They look at it like, oh man, well, they grew up doing this, so that means that's what I got to do.
Yeah, they think it's cool.
Yep, and then so they start to try to repeat those same behaviors without the experience needed to do this stuff, and so they put themselves and their generations in harm, because we in a society where everybody's a rapper. Everybody got all of these outlets and stuff for other people to hear what they talk about doing on a daily basis, whether it's true or false. And so you got people constantly talking about killing and drugs and all of this stuff. And so young people start to feel like to be acceptable in society, you got to portray yourself as a killer, or you have to partake in different drug activities, and that's just not right.
I think it affects them a lot. I think it affects them a lot in terms of their friends, their family. So many people have friends and family members that they've lost to gang violence. And I think it exposes the fact that sometimes young people feel like that's the only way to deal with the issues, is with violence and by joining a gang that is like a family. So yeah, I think it's twofold. It's bad for them, and I also think they feel like there's no other way.
How do you feel about some school banning the book due to controversy?
I don't think books should be banned. I think that when people write about real things that are happening and tell their truth in books, whose right is it for anybody to ban the truth? We study the Holocaust, don't we? That's devastating.
Right. After reading the book and watching the movie, what is the message that you get from this story and why?
Yeah. I feel like this has something to do with like black justice.
Okay. How do you feel about some schools banning the book due to the controversy?
I feel like it's a bit messed up, because like you gotta learn stuff, like you gotta like see how it is in the real world, like how black justice works and how some people are against it. When you banning that type of stuff, these kids don't witness what that is, so it's just like they don't realize like how officers really treat black people, or else how black people are really treated. They are just told like, oh yeah, we all have equal rights, when really we don't.
What I got from the movie is like really what it explains, like police brutality, riots and all that other stuff.
I feel like they made that movie to give us
rights.
I think she helped many households and families to have a national conversation about things that families were already having conversations about. And I think just we need more women like Angie Thomas to write stories and publish their stories. I mean, she was working in a church as a secretary. That's her talent is obviously so much bigger and broader than what that role was, and we need more people writing books and telling their truths.
I guess that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you for this interview.
You're very welcome. Thank you. This was awesome.
All right, thank you.
Are you afraid to die? Or do you want to live forever? Tell me, what's wrong?
They wanna bury me, I'm worried. I'm losing my mind, look down the barrel of my 9 and my vision's blurry. Falling to pieces, am I guilty? I pray to the Lord, but he ignores me, unfortunately, cause I'm guilty. Show me a miracle, I'm hopeless. I'm choking off marijuana smoke with every token, it's like I'm losing focus. Falling asleep while I'm in service.
I forgot to ask you a question. How do you feel on schools banning the book? Some schools banning the book.
I feel that those schools most likely are run by racist people. I'm just gonna be honest. If it's explaining police brutality and other things, the knowledge that kids need to know, and you're banning the book, obviously you don't care. I'm just gonna be straight up. You don't care about black people. You don't care about anything. I'm just gonna be straight up with you.
Right.
What other reason do you have to ban the book? That's all I have.